Hello, everybody, and welcome to Microsoft Build, another session here. We are doing Ask the Experts. So thank you for joining up today. Scaling Responsible MLOps with Azure Machine Learning. I'm your host, Christian Giro, a senior program manager on our AI platform team, leading commercialization for Azure Machine Learning. We're going to run through a quick agenda, do a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll get right to the content today. So we'll do what to expect, we'll do some team introductions, and then we'll open the question and answer portion. This is supposed to be a very interactive session. We wish we could be there in person with you all, but please do utilize the Q&A function within the chat. The team here is excited and ready to take all of your questions, so please do feel free to engage. So how to engage? Using the Q&A box, go ahead and answer those. Go ahead and ask those questions. These questions will appear to us all once approved, and all of our experts here will be able to answer verbally for you. Etiquette: this session is being recorded. Please help our moderators, that's me. Please don't spam the Q&A chat and adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct. Speaking of which, this is the Microsoft Digital Event Code of Conduct. I know we have our producers in the chat here that will be dropping this into the chat for reference, but that is done there. And so here we are, asking the experts. Please do ask us about the newly released Responsible AI dashboard. Yay, we're very excited about this. Please ask us about how to build responsible MLOps frameworks, how different stakeholders can benefit responsible AI, and how your organization can benefit from MLOps. With that, I'm going to introduce the team here. So one by one, I'll ask them to come off mute, come on camera, and introduce themselves. So I'll start with Min-Soo.
Thanks, Christian. Hi, everyone. My name is Min-Soo, and I'm a product manager at Azure Machine Learning, working specifically on bringing you all the responsible AI tools that you saw launched today. Nice to meet you, and I'm really looking forward to all your questions.
Thanks, Min-Soo. We'll go to Richard.
Hi there, I'm Richard Edgar. I'm a software engineer in the same team as Min-Soo, working on this exciting new release. And I'm also one of the maintainers of the Fairlearn package, which has grown out of Microsoft Research in New York.
Great, thanks,
Looking forward to hearing from you now.
Perfect, and Ilya, we'll throw to you next. Ilya. Oh, there you are. You were muted for a second. 2022. There you were muted.
I'm also on the same team as Min-Soo on the Responsible AI team, data scientist, working mostly on analysis and model interpretability.
Perfect. Thanks. And last but not least is Abe.
I'm trying to slowly get off mute. There you go. Hey everyone, my name is Abe Mamargwa. I am a product manager on the Azure ML team, mainly focused on MLOps, so everything to do with the kind of features we're releasing out to facilitate MLOps, as well as I have past experiences on our Git experiences, as well as notebook experiences in Azure Machine Learning. Nice to meet you all. I can't wait to hear your questions about all our cool MLOps offerings.
Perfect. Thanks, Abe. So I will stop sharing the screen here real quick. You probably get a big view of my face now. So come on in with those questions and answers, with those questions you might have out in the field. We're excited to have those come through. I will start actually with a question that I have. I'm going to start with a question for Min-Soo. So Min-Soo, we just announced this Responsible AI dashboard, right? This is a huge splash we're making from our AI platform team, from our Responsible AI tooling team within Azure Machine Learning. The Responsible AI dashboard introduces a comprehensive experience for many Responsible AI tools. Can you tell me how that's different from the status quo in the market today?
Sure, Christian. So this is actually one of the first tools in the industry among all the cloud providers where it's integrated in your cloud machine learning platform, providing you with all of these new tools, including causal analysis, counterfactual analysis. Those are new tools straight from our Microsoft research that we've worked very closely with the researchers on incubating and bringing to the product. And so you'll have like SageMaker and other offerings from Amazon and Google addressing, interpretability and fairness. But I feel like our newly released Responsible AI dashboard and scorecard goes beyond those base offerings that we also had in preview, and brings together these new cutting edge technology in the realm of mature responsible AI tooling, all in one comprehensive experience with the cloud backed platform.
Excellent. Very cool. Thanks, Minsu. And so this sounds like a really interesting, really awesome tool for us to enable data scientists to build more responsibly. Obviously, as we're all ML focused, machine learning focused types of folks on this call, I always think about inputs and outputs. And so I'll throw my next question to Richard over here. And so for this responsible AI dashboard, what types of data inputs does that responsible AI dashboard support?
Well, to create a dashboard, you need to bring a model that you want to analyze, and then training and test data sets to analyze it on, because it's, as ever in machine learning, it's always a combination of the mathematical technique in the model, but also your data set that you've got to look at. Right now, in terms of what formats we support, that is somewhat restricted still, but we are looking to expand that as the Azure ML offerings build up and become more mature in terms of what we can ingest. Right now, your data have to be in a Parquet file, but that's going to change over time. And then you bring these in, and you put them through our component flow, and then out the end you get both a version of the dashboard that you can either download to your local machine or even just run interactively in Azure ML, and also a more static version that you can view in Azure ML without having to have any backup compute behind it, but it just runs in the UX and you can go back to it and examine it anytime you need it.
Perfect. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, I think it's definitely in a great state right now, and glad to know that like we're releasing something that already has future plans, right? So that investment is really coming through. So we love to see that. Excuse me. So we got a question from the chat here. So I'm going to go ahead and ask this question. Is for Abe. It comes from the chat, and my Q&A is not working right now, unfortunately. So I can't actually say who asked this question, but hopefully there's somebody out there that will remember this is their question. Here we go. So for Abe, will we see in the future, this is an MLOps question I should preface, will we see in the future some type of shared component repository with Git or maybe Azure Container Registry to be able to reuse components across multiple projects or partners?
Yeah, this is a great question. This is something we think about a lot. If you look right now, we just released custom components. So in your workspace, you can release, you can have a custom component, and anyone can actually publish that to Git. But in the future, we do have a bunch of ideas. I don't want to announce anything right now, but we have been thinking about this concept quite a bit on how we can make sure we facilitate the sharing of these custom components across projects for people, as well as across workspaces for people as well. So that's definitely a concept we've been thinking through. We want to make sure it applies for all our. We know for sure this is something that our internal Microsoft folks have used and utilized. So that's something we want to see how we can roll out to everybody as well.
Great, thanks, Abe. And I want to actually stick with you real quick for another question to go a little bit deeper on the MLOps as we continue to let the questions flow on through from our audience. So I know that there have been some new changes that have come to the Azure ML CLI and SDK. How is this different from other releases, and how might this impact my MLOps framework and my organization?
Hello, did I lose you?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I think I lost you halfway through the question.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll ask it again. I want to stay on the topic of MLOps here, and ask that I know there have been some changes to the Azure ML CLI and SDK, and I'm wondering how it's different now than it has been from other releases, and how that might impact my MLOps framework and my organization.
Oh yeah. So what we've done with the new V2 CLI as well as the SDK is we're really changed the way we think about MLOps and made sure all the new components in Azure Machine Learning and all the new code you're writing in Azure Machine Learning works super natively with any Git platform you're using. So if you look at Azure ML prior, whenever you wanted to do anything in terms of orchestration of your machine learning pipelines or your machine learning assets, you had to do a lot of config script writing and a lot of extra code in our Python SDK. What we've done is we've kind of looked back and looked at the fundamentals of things. We've created this new CLI that uses a bunch of YAML scripts. So when you're using YAML, it's a lot easier for you to componentize and really write the specifications of all the infrastructure as well as all the components you want inside a pipeline. So right now it's a lot easier for you to plug and play with Azure Machine Learning and Git and other platforms you might have, similar to if you ever use Kubernetes or other infrastructure platforms on Azure or AWS or wherever. Right now, Azure Machine Learning has kind of snapped to that standard where it's super easy for you to orchestrate these machine learning projects across multiple surface areas. So that is why it's a lot, we're very proud about this announcement, as well as all the new CLI commands work natively with Azure ARM. So what that really buys you is a lot of native Azure specific commands you can run, or you can use them in conjunction with Azure Machine Learning now. So we've made things a lot easier for users. We've made it a lot simplified for you to work with your other operations, Git or whatever it is. And we've also made it really easy to integrate with any other products in Azure. So I would encourage you to check it out and see all the new API capabilities we have, the new SDK capabilities we have, as well as the new CLI stuff we have as well.
That's great, Abe. Thanks. I want to take something that you just hit off of right there, which is like the simplification, the integration of these tools, like that more deep integration that we're seeing from you guys. And I want to take that from MLOps and I actually want to apply it to responsible AI. There was a question that came from the chat. It says, are the responsible AI dashboards now integrated into the product? Up until now, you had to execute notebooks where the code often didn't work and the dashboards would not render. So Mintsu, I see you laughing. So maybe I will throw that to you, and then Ilya might go to you next after that. But Mintsu, go ahead.
Wow, this is a great question, and I'm so happy to answer this because our new release is actually now very integrated into all the different aspects that Abe just talked about. So the new CLI experience, the new SDK experience, having something that's automated, having custom components for responsible AI that you can construct and specify your own pipeline jobs for. All of those things are included in our most recent release of the responsible AI dashboard. It's actually rather than the previous experience of the SDK packages that model explainability and model fairness had, we're actually now like more natively integrated into the Azure Machine Learning experience so that, not only can you access all of our tools and run them with the new CLI and SDK experience, there's also a no-code experience as well. So gone are the days where you can only do things in your notebooks and then, cross your fingers and hope that it renders. We actually have a great flow of going from multiple different surfaces back into Azure Machine Learning to view the responsible AI dashboard attached to your models.
That's great. And then Ilya, I saw you you nodding along. Anything to add to Mintsu's response?
Sure, great question. I think this also goes into a comparison of the open source and the integration that we have. So as you know, we released at the end of last year the open source responsible AI dashboard, and it's an interactive dashboard. And now we're integrating it into the product. Unlike the exploration dashboard and the first dashboard integration, which didn't have a lot of compute backing it, with the current responsible dashboard, we actually have all of the features that are in the open source, whereas previously for explainability, we lacked some of the features like what if analysis and ice plots. So with the dashboard, you can actually attach an interactive compute, and you can get all of the functionality that it's open source because you have compute backing it. Plus, in addition to that, you have integration with run history, so you can actually track your dashboards. You can, view them in different models. So you have the tracking capability that is lacking in the open source. And also you still have that static view, where if you don't want to use compute that's backing the dashboard, you don't want to pay for compute, you can just view a static view of the dashboard at any time in your browser.
Awesome. Thanks, Ilya. So we've talked a little bit about the technology now of MLOps and the new responsible AI dashboard that we've released. My question is now, from that technology standpoint, let's talk about how this might impact stakeholders. So Minsu, I'll ask you, who are the primary stakeholders for this tool?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like even now we're building out sort of the ideas around who is actually involved in building AI responsibly, and we're finding that it spans a broad spectrum, right? We have the people who are actually full stack ML engineers writing the code, creating the model, testing it, training it. We have the compliance and authorities who are doing audits, who are making sure that your models aren't imposing harm on the underrepresented people that you may be affecting. And you also have business stakeholders who have a vested interest in seeing their investment on the digital transformation of using AI to be something that is going to return on that offer, right? And so you have all these different stakeholders that have some stake in making sure that the AI itself that's being developed is not only debuggable and understandable, it's also making sure that there's a way to track it, a way to understand the lineage, the version history of it, making sure that we have all the different snapshots of metrics that is explaining how and why the model is making the decisions that it's making, so that you can explain to your teammates that you're building this model with. You can explain to your C-level executive, like, in natural language terms with the responsible AI scorecard, why, they're investing in some XYZ forms of their model. And then you can also explain to compliance and auditing reviews why, what exactly was your model doing at X date, taking in X data, and what are the outputs that it provided you. So there's all these, like, it's a broad span of people who are all interested in understanding and making sure AI is built responsibly. And we're hoping that, with the release of both the dashboard and the scorecard, we can start to provide the tooling for all of those people to, integrate this into their process. Because at the end of the day, it is a process, and you need to have organizational power and buy-in from everyone to do it. And hopefully tooling is just part of the story.
I love that. And so it's interesting, you're talking about this journey, and I want to go back to that, but I want to focus on the finish line for a second, if I could. You just alluded to the responsible AI scorecard. And I think that's a really interesting piece, and I don't think we've talked about that yet. So can you tell me, first off, what is the responsible AI scorecard? And second off, how can I generate one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Responsible AI Scorecard is actually a PDF export of your Responsible AI dashboard. So once your dashboard is generated for some registered model you have in your Azure Machine Learning workspace, you can essentially generate a scorecard that is a summary of all of your major key insights from your Responsible AI dashboard. And that includes, like, what are the top 10 features that were the most relevant in your prediction? What are the fairness assessments that were created based on the disparity of metrics in your model performance? What are some of the causal effects of key treatment features you care about in causal analysis? What are the top performing and worst performing cohorts as determined by our error analysis? And so all of these things are great in the dashboard when it's interactive, dynamic, you can really drill in deep. But when you really want to share, like, an executive summary, like a 5-page PDF of what your model is doing, it's going to be awesome to have something that is readable, it's written in English, all the charts are visualizing all of these different metrics that are important to you. And additionally, the key part of this is that the person creating this report has set target values for or thresholds for whether or not the model is up to snuff. So essentially, like, is my model meeting my threshold for error, right? Is my model meeting my threshold for fairness disparity or unfairness disparity? And so a lot of those things can also be tweaked and refined, and you can get a report that is essentially downloadable, shareable outside of AML, and something that you've been able to, put your subject matter expertise or domain expertise into.
I love that. It really helps to orchestrate that governance and that responsible AI framework for customers and for organizations that are looking to go on this type of journey. So thanks for that response. I want to go back to a little bit more of the journey model that you were alerting to here and focus on a different persona, and that's that data scientist, that core data scientist persona. Right, the one that's developing models, the one that's taking models to production, and doing so hopefully responsibly using the responsible AI dashboard. And I want to throw this next question to Abe, and I want to ask, so if I put myself in the shoes of that core data scientist, that persona that Azure ML is really built for, how am I going to use Azure ML to scale, particularly my machine learning notebooks, to get to that production level traffic that I really want my organization to see?
Yeah, so that's a thing that, a lot of people right now in the industry kind of sell, MLOps itself as this big thing. So what Azure ML really helps people do is gives them the right tools for them to do this MLOps thing. So it's really dependent on your team on who can scale to production, when they can scale to production, who has the right rights to do that. So Azure ML provides you the tool and the platform to do that. So as a data scientist, depending how your team is structured, depending how your organization is structured, easily on Azure Machine Learning, you can start a notebook and you can publish the notebook to, let's say, an experiment. When you have that experiment, you can create a model and save it in your model registry. And then in our model registry, right from the UI, you can hit deploy and deploy right to your production cluster. However, really dependent on the way your organization is structured, you might have to call maybe your model risk officer in to look at the RAI dashboard and review the model before it's deployed. You might have to call in your ML engineer to maybe take a look at the model and how it's going to perform before you deploy it. And the thing is, Azure ML has all the right RBAC rules, the right roles in place for you to block data scientists or whoever doesn't have the right rights to push right into production. So at a data scientist, you have all the right tools, you have the platform to get everything ready, to put it in the right place. You could hit the deploy button and test things out, but to go to prod, you have all the guardrails in place and the commenting and all, as well as copy and paste of a link to send it to someone to deploy it for you. But for yourself exactly what I want to deploy to prod exists in Azure Machine Learning. It's saved and shared across my whole team, and anyone can go in and just deploy that if they want. And if your team is small enough that you have the rights to deploy things to production, you just press the button, use our new GA managed endpoints, and you can scale it out to 50% of the audience, 100% of the audience, whatever you really want to do. Or if you're adventurous, you can use our CLI as well and deploy right from our model registry in Azure ML as well.
I love that, Abe. It sounds like no matter what my interface is as a data scientist, whether it's the UI, the CLI, the SDK, I'm able to access this entire MLOps framework. Is that correct?
Yes, you're able to access all this MLOps framework. And the thing that I want to make sure I emphasize is there's also an aspect of people in MLOps. Like even in your DevOps pipeline today, you can't just deploy production code right away. It's 2 or 3 people need to review and approve this. So Azure ML gives you the ability to add roles and rights to different things. So perhaps there's a sign-off person before you deploy to production. So yes, you have all the tools in place to do everything, but we also put the restrictions so you don't maybe like do something that might harm your production app or something like that.
That's perfect. I think a wise man once said that MLOps is the unification of people, process, and product. Is that right? Exactly. Awesome. So I want to stick on that, and I'm not sure who this question goes to, because it's sort of a sort of bleeding between both worlds here. But from Abe's description of MLOps, right, and being able to do these concepts, to achieve and action these concepts from the UI, from the SDK, CLI, and from Minsu's side to talk about how we're enabling this responsible creation of models. How do I work those together? How do I automate, or is it even possible to automate things like responsible AI dashboard creation as part of my MLOps lifecycle, as part of that framework? And I don't know who that question is going to go to, so I'll just throw it out, and whoever wants to come off mute.
Well, I will take a stab at this, and then maybe I will drag Richard into it as well with me. But I think the main thing that we've contributed to being able to automate responsible AI is the fact that we are built as components on top of this new CLI and SDK v2 experience. Now, when I was talking about our previous experience with model explainability, there was no way to like pre-specify certain jobs or runs that would create these insights for you. You basically had a notebook experience, and you had to just pip install a package and run the insights there and then. And it obviously was a very manual experience, essentially, because you had to make sure all the environments were right. You had to, a human person like had to go in and like actually sit down with a notebook and write it out, make sure all the right data is ported in, the right model, etc. And so when it comes to actually like iteratively checking and creating responsible AI insights, now that we have a way to specify those jobs, as Abe said earlier, it's going to be way easier to, plug and play with the different platforms and different services that are available to you. Either Abe or Richard, do you want to add anything?
Yes, certainly. I mean, I think you're capturing it well there, in that what we are enabling is a way to automate your processes around responsible AI. Now, we can't automate the doing responsible AI itself, because you've got to look at each situation where you're just deploying a model by itself. But once you've figured out what are the things I need to look at in my model to decide whether this model can be responsibly used, what our new components offer is a way to have a standard pipeline that you can push your models and data through, and then you can have standardized reports, so you can then assess your models according to the criteria that you have worked out apply in your situation.
Yeah, and I can add on top of that as well. Like, the thing that excites me the most about like the CLI v2 and like the new YAML stuff is, being a developer myself, you have so many tools out there right now. So the way Minsu and Richard said is, you have a component for responsible AI, and it generates the right things for you. A lot of users or customers we have is, they have the free reign to create anything they want. They can maybe create a pipe. Before doing responsible AI, you have a bunch of business processes that plug right into this component. With the new CLI, you can do just that. You can connect things that you have on Azure and connect it right into maybe your data into the RAI dashboard or things like that. There's a lot of different possibilities. I myself don't know all the possibilities, but we're excited to see what people come up with. But we have all the tools out there for you to do some great things. So, I'd encourage you to explore it with your favorite tools like GitHub or DevOps. It would all work seamlessly. So that's why we like this new DevPlat v2, the new CLI v2. So I would encourage you to give it a try.
That's perfect. We look forward to seeing what everybody can create out there. In our last minute here, I want to ask one more question to Minsu. Minsu, this has been great to learn about what's new and latest and greatest with MLOps and responsible AI. Do you have any examples of customer stories that are folks that are getting empowered with this tool to date?
Yes, and I'll be very brief. There's also going to be a customer case study link that's dropped in the chat, but essentially we had NHS, which is the National Health system, or the health services in the UK, which there was a couple of orthopedic surgeons who were using AI in order to do risk assessments of patients who were in long waiting lines and queues for getting surgery. And that really allowed them to do very personalized kind of assessment for each person rather than a very generalized one that they had been manually doing by literally just ticking off boxes on an evaluation sheet. And with the responsible AI dashboard that they use, they could actually understand how their AI model was giving those risk assessments. So it's really like the human in the loop using AI's technology to help people. And that's one of the most impactful things that we hope to see people do with our tools.
That's great, Minsu. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody on this panel. That concludes our Ask the Experts Scaling Responsible MLOps with Azure Machine Learning. I want to thank Minsu, Ilya, Richard, and Abe for their time here and answering all the questions from the chat, as well as my questions from the hot seat over here. Thank you everybody for joining. We appreciate your time with us. Your feedback is very important, so please visit aka.ms/Microsoft Build Evals to complete your session evaluations. And with that, we'll say thanks for joining and have a great rest of your build.